I'm pretty stupid, but I made 3.4 million in the last 365 days. This is just a screenshot from one of my stores, and I have actually done over 5 million. So if you guys don't know me, I'm very straightforward, very direct. So I'm just going to break down basically everything I've done to get to this stage, and also teach you guys how you can do it yourself and how you can build a brand to one day exit. So firstly, obviously it's a product selection and the profit margins, right? So you want to choose big verticals. So what that means is you want to have a lot of market space. So some examples are health, beauty, and fashion, right? Choose one of those niches. You want to go for a product that has at least a 5x markup. So let's say your product is $5. You want to at least sell it for $25, right? And the reason for that is it gives you a lot more margin. And as you can see by the last point, higher margins allowed for more aggressive scale. So if your margin is higher, your AOV is higher, then you can have a lower ROAS and you can scale higher. And especially at high scale, naturally your ROAS is going to dip. So having a higher margin and a higher markup will allow you to scale without constraints, right? The next thing is perceived value. So obviously the US consumers, they pay more for skincare than Europeans, for example. So there's certain markets that will pay more for a product than others. So what you have to do is you have to do your research, and that goes to the fourth point right there. So you have to pick the niche first, then the product, right? So you want to identify a problem and then solve it with a product, right? And you also want to find products that in that region specifically, people spend a lot more on. So for instance, the US consumers with the skincare, there's billion-dollar beauty brands that just sell skincare in US. So obviously I'm not advising to sell those because you would be competing with them. However, that's just one of the examples that you can use. The next thing is branding and positioning. So you want to charge a premium by improving the perceived value. So obviously you want to have high quality images on the landing pages. You want to have good branding, good packaging, and good storytelling. And you want to use pre-sale pages, so advertorials. If you guys want me to make a tutorial on how to do that, how to find the information for it, and how to actually speak to your customer, then let me know down below. Copywriting, storytelling, they're very key. So you want to make sure the messaging on your product page or pre-lander aligns with the messaging in your ad and also your ad copy. So you want to speak to their same desires, to their same beliefs, their same identification, and you want to make sure all of that aligns, right? The next thing obviously is Meta penalizes copy creative. So if you guys didn't know, if you just rip something from another brand, you're going to get high CPMs, and therefore it's going to cost you more to advertise to the customer, as opposed to if you either get your video editor to mash it up, you mash it up yourself, or you get custom content. So you get UGC, then you can edit it, and you can also get static ads, which will help you scale and maintain sustainability long term. So the next thing is testing and scaling products. So quality over quantity. You don't want to just be chucking darts at the wall and just hoping for the best, right? You want to actually do your research, understand the market, understand the customer avatar, who you're selling to, what are the current angles, and then I think the best thing to do if you have the knowledge is to change the angle that they're using, or make iterations of that certain angle that they're targeting, and then make their product, their ads, their offer, everything that they're doing, just make it better. Again, custom content is always going to beat ripped content for longevity. Yes, I have used ripped content myself. However, if you want to maintain sustainability, you have to get custom content, whether that's through an editor, through AI, or through static ads, right? So you want to find working ad angles and iterate. So you don't want to just copy competitors. Let's say you have some winning ads that are working. What you want to do is you want to make iterations of that. So you want to change up the hooks, change up the call to actions. Maybe you get the script from a video, you download it, you put it into 11 Labs, and then you can use AI to make a UGC style video, and you can put TikTok edits over the top. That's one way you can do it. Another thing you can do is you can get your script. You can ask ChatGPT, what are the desires? What angle does it target? What is the market sophistication? What are their beliefs? What's their identity, etc. You ask it that, and then you use that information to make more scripts that target that exact same person. And then you send those scripts to the UGC creators, or you can send it to a video editor again to make the same AI or just TikTok style edits, right? So again, AI can speed up content creation, but should not replace research. If you're not doing research on your brand and you're not understanding your customer, then at the end of the day, you're just going to continue to chuck darts at a wall, right? So you want to understand your customer. Why do they actually buy the product? How can I speak to them directly? How are they conversing in their day-to-day life? You want to understand all those things, and you want to use that in your content, in your messaging, etc. So advertising and creatives. Now you want to use TikTok, Meta Ad Library, and YouTube research. Also Google, Reddit to find winning angles. So you just want to go on there. You want to find out what your customer is talking about. Maybe you look at reviews as well, and you can find out why they actually bought the product. And you can use that in your ads, in your future ads, to target that avatar, right? So next thing is you want to test multiple creative variations. So as I mentioned previously, you find something that's working, you test different hooks, different call to actions, maybe different visuals as well. And you want to have pre-sales pages and again, custom content. And custom content and pre-sales pages will always outperform the standard product page flow. Now, the next thing is a creative strategy. So what I recommend doing is having 60% of your new creatives iterations of previous winners. So whether that's images, whether that's videos, etc. And then 30 to 40% of new concepts. So new concepts can be new angles, targeting a completely new avatar. It can be anything, right? So higher spend doesn't always mean higher profit. So you need to focus on the actual profit, not the ROAS. Let's say if you're at 500K revenue per month and you're netting 30%, it's better than being at $1 million a month and only netting 10%, right? So obviously you're going to have less staff to pay. You're going to have less processing fees, less customer support tickets, everything, right? So you want to focus on the net dollars, okay? So next thing is fulfillment and logistics, right? This is for if you're building a brand. If you're doing drop shipping, you don't have to worry about this. But what I recommend for building a brand is having a 3PL in the US for fast shipping to core markets. That's if you're marketing to US. If you're marketing, let's say to Australia, you want to have a 3PL there so you can give them 3 to 5 days shipping, because that will build your brand awareness, and also word of mouth spreads and it's like a wildfire, right? Then you want to use your Chinese-based agent for the rest of the world. And obviously you want to buy bulk, you want to get a custom design made, and you want to make sure that if there's functions that are missing with your product that you have noticed, the stock product, you want to change that. So you want to make it better. So then customers say, oh yeah, this brand didn't do X, Y, and Z, but my brand does, right? Next thing obviously is bundle offers. So you want to have pre-purchase upsells, post-purchase upsells, and even a survey upsell, right? So those are the main things that you want to have to increase AOV and obviously mitigate the shipping costs. The next thing is CRO, so conversion optimization and post-purchase flow. So the first upsell is the most important when it comes to post-purchase. You want to aim for 25 to 35% take rate, and don't move or don't worry about the downsells or anything else until you have that first upsell optimized. Once you have it optimized, you have the right offer, the right product, everything like that, then you can work on the downsell, the upsell, the thank you page, etc. Right? So on your upsell pages, you want to use long form sales copy. So a pre-sale style, right? So you want to have information on there detailed about your product, a certain angle you know that works. And at the end of the day, you want to have as high of an AOV as possible, because at the end of the day, ROAS is AOV divided by the cost per acquisition. So If your cost per acquisition is increasing and your AOV is not, then obviously your net profit margin will go down. Whereas if you have a higher AOV, now you can spend more on acquiring your customer, and therefore you can outbid and outscale your competitors. So next, obviously, is team building. So you want to hire for culture, train for skill. So essentially, you want to hire people that have a good attitude, that are loyal, that good communication, they show up on time, they want to learn. And it's better to have one killer VA than 10 average ones, right? At the end of the day, it's going to be cheaper for you, but also you can pay them more because they're doing better work. And also, it's not going to be a headache of managing all those people, right? So the first hires I'd recommend is, first, obviously, customer support. When you start scaling, even if you're at 100K per month in revenue, you're going to need customer support because it's going to take away all the time that you would need to scale. You would need to run ads, do research, build the team, build the systems, etc. Next thing I would have is bookkeeping. So you want to get your bookkeeping dialed in early because 100K profit can look like 60K, and you're not going to know unless you have your books dialed in. So I'd recommend that very early on. And the next thing, obviously, is a creative team. So you want to have a creative strategist, a copywriter, a video editor, a visual design, which now I actually recommend just using ChatGPT. You can get your VA to make images based off the scripts that you give them or the concepts, etc. And then you want to have your communication all in one place. So I like to do it on WhatsApp. I just have groups on there for, I have my supplier, my editor, visual designer, my personal assistant, customer support. All of them are in groups, and then I just created a community, even my bookkeeping as well. So it's all in one place. And the operations manager is crucial once you scale beyond $1 million per month. So that'll just help you, as I said, building the systems. And one thing, if I could go back, I wouldn't spend so much time building the systems. I'd actually pay someone to do it for me, because at the end of the day, that takes away a lot of time from actually scaling the business, which, the sales, the revenue, the profit margin, actually building the brand is what is going to allow you to scale. Whereas if you focus on tasks that should be delegated, then it's going to take all that time away from you actually scaling. So the next thing is payment processing and finances. Now, I recommend staying on Shopify payments as long as you can, but you want to make sure that you have your chargeback mitigation set up. So I recommend using Charge Blast. And if you use them, you want to make sure you set up RDR, Ethica, and CDRN as soon as possible, because basically what that's going to do is every time you get a chargeback, it's going to send an alert to your processor, for instance, Shopify payments. Then you just have to pay a fee. So for example, RDR, I believe, is around $25. You pay that fee and it doesn't count towards a chargeback. So you keep your processes healthy for longer, and therefore Shopify doesn't give you holds. They're not going to match list you, which, if you don't know, match listing means you can't process payments anywhere for 4 years. So you want to avoid that, right? You want to have multiple payment options. I don't recommend using PayPal. However, if you want to increase conversions, I think it is necessary. So you can get a Hong Kong PayPal set up, and they're not really going to give you holds. And again, reserves can eat your profit margin. So that's why alerts is essential, and also having a good customer journey and good customer support, and also having fast shipping time. So that goes back to having the US 3PO or wherever your primary market is. Next thing is obviously bookkeeping. It's non-negotiable. You want to have clean books that allow for scaling and eventual exit. So, if someone wants to buy your brand, they don't want to see all these different stores and your bookkeeping not dialed in. You don't know how much you're making. You don't have all your expenses tracked. You want to have everything tracked to the T, right? Because that's going to have it all in one place. They're going to see exactly how much you make, and then they can base their evaluation off of that. Obviously, mindset and longevity. You want to focus on building a real brand, not just turn and burn drop shipping. So I've been a victim of this myself, and now my focus is building for long term. So I have 3 brands currently that I'm building, and I do not care about, the month. Obviously, you want to have cash flow, right? But your primary focus should be for the exit, and turn and burn drop shipping. It's honestly just a waste of time. Unless you're beginning, then I understand it completely. And obviously you want to avoid overspending early. So I see so many people they do their first 100K month, then they go and spend it all on a nice car, and now they're actually left with $0, right? So you want to make sure that you invest every single dollar that you can back into the business, because at the end of the day, that means you're investing into yourself within reason, right? You don't want to spend all of it, but you want to keep your expenses to a minimum and invest every single dollar into actually growing your businesses. And again, track every dollar. I mentioned it before. What looks like 100K profit could be 60K after hitting costs. So you could have, processing fees, you could have chargebacks, refunds, maybe your suppliers charging you more than you think, etc., etc. It goes on. You just want to make sure your books are dialed in, and you want to have sustainability over short-term wins. So I see so many people, they get one winning product, they don't know what actually went into making that product a winner, and they can't replicate it again. So you want to have a system in place, why products are winner, and once you find a winning product, you want to maintain that, unless it's obviously a seasonal product. It's a bit different, but once you find a winning product, I think the main focus should be to build a brand and obviously prepare for the eventual exit. So again, we're just going to go over the key takeaways that you can use for your own brand. So number one, you want to pick a niche with a strong demand and high perceived value. Number two, you want to ensure a 5x markup for scalability and ad spend efficiency. And number three, you want to develop strong branding and storytelling to justify the premium pricing. So you want to have high quality images, the messaging align with your copy and your landing page and your ads. You want to test fewer high quality products with deep research. So do deep research on the market, the avatar, their desires, etc. And then base your tests off of that, right? You want to build custom content, so UGC, AI ads, get an editor to make mashups, statics. You want to use pre-sale pages, so you can use Replo to make those, or you can just get someone to build it out. And you want to optimize the entire funnel, so pre-purchase, post-purchase, upsells, everything like that you want to have dialed in. You want to have a solid fulfillment strategy, so US 3PL plus a China agent. You want to optimize your upsells and AOV to maximize your profitability. And you want to hire a lean, high impact team and centralize operations. So have everything in one place. I like to use ClickUp for that. And my team is only 5 people. So, if I'm able to do that to get to $1 million a month with 5 people, there's no reason you can't do the same, right? And obviously maintain financial discipline. So you want to track books, avoid overhiring, and reinvest wisely, right? You don't want to just blow your first 100K on an AMG, for example, right? You want to spend what you have to, invest some, and then reinvest into your business, because that ultimately is going to be what's going to allow you to grow the most and what's going to allow you to get to where you want to go. So with that being said, guys, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys are interested in one-on-one coaching, I do offer that, and I only take on certain people who I know actually want to put in the work. And I know as long as they do that, they will get results. I had my best student do 227K revenue with 80K profit. So again, if you guys are interested in that, click the link down below and I'll see if you qualify. I do hope you guys enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe to give it a boost to the algorithm, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.